On the 1st of July, TSN sat a man down on live television and asked him to explain what the Toronto Maple Leafs had just built. 49 days earlier, the Toronto Maple Leafs had fired him. Craig Berube took the chair anyway, and before anyone asked him about Sergei Bobrovsky, before the panel got near the biggest name of the day, he started listing the things that team had needed. Everybody who watched that segment clipped the same thing, which was the discomfort. Fired coach, new roster, hot lights, jokes about running into an ex at the grocery store. Fair enough. It is uncomfortable television. One ask, and I will not repeat it. Subscribing is the cheapest transaction of the season. No cap hit, no retained salary, no first-rounder going the other way. And it puts this channel one ahead of the Montreal one. Do it. But almost nobody wrote down what he actually said, and what he actually said is the closest thing to an exit interview the Toronto Maple Leafs are ever going to hand you. 4 items, in his order. 1. Colton Sissons and Teddy Blueger. His description: hard-nosed players, penalty kill, checking, do all the dirty work. Then this, word for word. That was a need for them, in my opinion, some depth down there. 2. Jack Roslovic. 2 words, secondary scoring. 3. Darren Raddysh, a proven power play guy with a bomb up top, and again, word for word, which, in my opinion, was needed there. 4. And then last but not least, signing a great goalie. Twice in about 90 seconds, the word need, spoken about a roster he had been coaching 6 weeks earlier. So let me give you the thing the panel skipped, because it reframes the entire day. Sissons signed for 2 years. Blueger signed for 2 years. Roslovic signed for 2 years. That is not a coincidence, and it is not my theory. Elliotte Friedman said on his podcast that the term was matched to Auston Matthews, whose contract runs out after the 2027-28 season. Friedman's phrasing, "It's also 2 years that you know Matthews is up, right?" And then, they did that on purpose, which means the roster Berube was describing on air was not built for a coach at all. It is a 2-year offer letter addressed to one player, and every man on that list is a line in it. Now go back to the 13th of May, and to the sentence that makes the whole segment land differently. The day Toronto fired him, General Manager John Chayka stood at a podium and said this: "It was an organizational decision. It was not a verdict on Craig's coaching. Hold that against the audit, because the list checks out in 3 places and breaks in 1, and the one where it breaks is the interesting one. Start with the goalie, because that hole was real." Joseph Woll finished last season at a save percentage of .899. Anthony Stolarz finished at .893. 2 goalies, 39 and 26 appearances, both under .900. Nobody wins with that. Then look at who they bought. Sergei Bobrovsky played 52 games for Florida last season and finished at .877, his worst rate since 2011-12, against a career mark of .912. He turns 38 in September, and the only Toronto goaltender who finished above .900 last season was Dennis Hildeby at .914 in 20 games. Toronto traded him to Tampa Bay on the 1st of July, the same afternoon they signed Bobrovsky. That is the goaltending item, real need, expensive answer, and a live question about which of the 2 save percentages you believe. Item 3 is where it gets genuinely interesting because of how they got him. Darren Raddysh is 30, shoots right, was born in Toronto, and is coming off career highs of 22 goals and 70 points in 73 games. He was 3 weeks from unrestricted free agency. Toronto did not sign him on July 1st, and they could not have. The reason is a rule most fans never have to think about. Under the collective agreement in force last season, a club could offer 8 years only to its own player. Anybody else topped out at 7. So Tampa Bay signed Raddysh to 8 years and $68 million on the 19th of June, then traded him to Toronto for a 5th-round pick. Toronto bought a signature Tampa was allowed to obtain, and they were not. And there is a clock on that trick. The new collective bargaining agreement takes effect on the 16th of September, and it cuts the maximums to 7 years with your own team and 6 with anybody else. The 8-year contract is about to stop existing. Toronto spent a draft pick to walk through a door that closes this autumn. Whatever that is, it is not the behavior of an organization that believes it has time. Which brings us to item 1, and to the part of Berube's list that does not survive contact with the standings. The penalty kill was not the problem. Toronto finished last season inside the league's top 10 on the kill. It was one of the few things that worked. The depth signings he praised were reinforcing the one unit that had not failed. The team still went 32, 36, and 14. 78 points, last in the Atlantic Division, 500th of nothing, and the end of 9 straight trips to the postseason. Auston Matthews played 60 games and finished with 27 goals and 53 points, the worst rate of his career outside his rookie season. None of that is a penalty kill problem. That is 5 on 5. And that is goaltending. And those are the 2 hardest things in hockey to fix with a 4th line. Before I give you my read, I want yours. Watch that clip again and tell me in the comments whether you heard analysis or an inventory. I genuinely cannot decide, and I have listened to it more times than is healthy. Here is where I come down, and it is a take, not a fact. Chaika's sentence is the most useful thing anybody in that organization said all summer. If firing the coach was not a verdict on the coaching, then it was a verdict on the roster. And the roster is not the coach's department. 6 weeks after saying it, the same general manager went out and bought a right-shot power play quarterback, a starting goaltender, and 3 checking forwards, which is a fairly precise description of what his predecessor never assembled. But I am not handing Berube a full acquittal, because the list convicts him too. The single thing a Craig Berube team is supposed to be is hard to play against. That is the identity he was hired for in 2024. And it is the identity Toronto had to go out and purchase in July after he was gone from 3 other clubs. A coach can lose a season to bad goaltending. Losing the one quality that is supposed to be yours is a different kind of failure. And 78 points with that top 6 is not somebody else's fault alone. One last thing, and I want to be careful with it because it is easy to overstate. In May, Chaika was asked whether Auston Matthews' future had anything to do with the decision to fire the coach. His answer was 2 words. None. 0. In July, he signed a group of players to contracts that all end the same summer Matthews does, and a reporter with sources inside the room said that was deliberate. Those are 2 different questions, and I am not calling it a contradiction. What I am saying is that the calendar answered a question the press conference did not. So tell me below where you land on the actual argument. Was Craig Berube fired for the roster he did not have, or did he lose the team and get exactly what the standings said he had earned? And if you were Chaika, would you have put him on that panel at all? I read every comment on these, and this one I actually want to argue about.